We're going to take the North and never give it back.
So that's a good pick. You get the corner. I got to go bold, right? I got to go bold for this.
Yeah, she's got some nice.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're out there on YouTube, and also rate the show 5 stars everywhere that you get your podcast. What's going on, Bears fans? We are in draft season now that we're starting to see some of the free agents start to dwindle a little bit. So today, what I have planned for us is we're going to be going through some different mock drafts. We're going to call this series Dueling Mock Drafts. So if y'all love it, let me know. Show the love in the comments, likes, share it out with your friends, because I like this concept. And we usually do something similar to this every year, where what we're going to do is kind of go through different concepts with the mock drafts, and we're going to pin them one versus another. And then you out there on YouTube are going to vote which one is the best, which one is your favorite, and just see just to kind of throw some ideas around to see what the Bears might do in the NFL draft. But also, happy Saturday to everybody out there as well. Saturday afternoon, we normally don't go live too much, but worked out that way. So I wanted to just kind of get this out and talk a little bit about what's going on with the Bears. So let's get right into it, because I haven't talked about some of the news. First big news, Olamide Zaccheaus was just signed, and he's going to project to be more of that slot receiver, coming off of one of his best years in the NFL with the Washington Commanders. And yet again, this is kind of what we're expecting. They're going to be signing some players like him, where I think this is fine. You don't have to have these home run signings when you have DJ Moore and Rome Odunze. All you need is depth, because we saw that last season when Keenan Allen couldn't do anything. You didn't have a number 3 receiver. Tyler Scott, like we've talked about, is more of kind of that running back type of a mold. So that's where he still just hasn't gotten it as a wide receiver. Doesn't mean he's going to be out the door or anything like that, but you can still sign some of these just 1-year deals for some of these players that can just fill out this roster. I still expect them to draft someone, but Olamide Zaccheaus, pretty good. Liked it pretty decently. But now let's talk a little bit too about some of the other signings that we have as well. And also Taco Man out there saying goodbye, Allen. Oh, did someone go? Did we release anyone? I didn't see. But let's keep on going, and let's get into the offensive line, where one of the pieces is Jonah Jackson signing an additional $7 million in guaranteed money to bring him out to another 3-year deal. So we consistently see this with the Bears players. They're all saying we're going to keep you with Caleb Williams. So a lot of stuff tied to Caleb Williams' contract. So that's what we're just keep on seeing. It also shows just how much confidence the Bears do have in Jonah Jackson as that right guard. You could tell that Ben Johnson during the interviews too had nothing but amazing things to say about Jonah Jackson. And really just this is where I kind of expect maybe a Joe Thuney extension. There's lots of talks about that as well. Just be on the lookout for something like that, because Joe Thuney, you kind of feel a little bit more confident that he's going to continue that level of play, because guards, even though he's going to be around 32 years old, they can typically hold their value a lot better than a lot of the other players. So that's the big piece with that. And then the other thing that I want to mention with this as well is also the Bears have around $20 million in cap space. We don't have the exact numbers yet. I see some people posting out how much money the Bears actually have. We do not know yet. I just urge everyone, like we were talking about before, if you're ever curious about the salary cap, go to Over the Cap, go to Spot Rack, and then scroll down, because a lot of times when people are posting, we have $30 million still, it's because Jonah Jackson's salary cap is not accounted for, or Grady Jarrett's is not accounted for. So just be on the lookout for that, but we should be around kind of that $20 million, depending on what Jonah Jackson's contract ends up looking like. So be on the lookout for that. And also, Taco Man, because I was like, Allen. Oh yeah, Keenan Allen. Yep. Keenan Allen probably not going to be back for sure. So just kind of solidifying that for sure. And then the last little person that we added, just to kind of wrap things up, Stephen Carlson, we re-signed him, backup tight end. Now, yet again, we've seen him for multiple years now. Nothing absolutely crazy, nothing amazing at that tight end position, but someone that just adds a little bit of depth. So like the signing or like the re-signing, just a good veteran, still doesn't remove you from adding anybody else inside of the draft at that tight end position. Because keep in mind too, Ben Johnson likes to run a lot of 2 tight end sets, even when he had Brock Wright. Brock Wright, not a great tight end, but still someone that they like to run a lot of those dual tight end sets. So that's something we'll be talking about today. So the big news that we want to be talking about is this week, Field Yates just unleashed his mock draft, and he was kind of just projecting what's going to happen in the first 10 picks. And this made Twitter go into a giant storm. Now everybody's saying, wait, what? What is going on with what's going on with the Bears? Because what ended up happening is that Field Yates projected the Bears to draft Tyler Warren, tight end out of Penn State. And the reason why this also kind of correlates to this is I wanted the first mock draft to be what would happen if the Bears did go tight end with that first pick. I wanted to just talk about it and also get y'all's just opinions on something like this. Are you for drafting Tyler Warren, the tight end out of Penn State, with that number 10 pick? Or is it something that you're just not a fan of, not approved, something that you do not like? Because something that I will say, when you look at the Bears depth chart, I think it is important to say, what do the Bears actually need? And I think I heard Adam Rank say this, because Adam Rank was saying I think we all agree on this. At the very beginning of the offseason, us as Bears fans were saying, well, if we're going to draft a running back or a tight end or another wide receiver or something like that, we need to fix the interior of the offensive line and we need defensive linemen. Well, that's exactly what we got. We got a left guard, a right guard, a center. We have them for 3 years. We have a defensive end on the other side. We have a defensive tackle to just add that extra depth. Now, when you look at this, I still feel like positions of need, if you go on the defense, we still need another defensive end that can do something, because I don't want to just bank on Austin Booker taking a jump. I think he will be better. Like we've said, was definitely a developmental type of a player. But still, are you trusting Daniel Hardy or Dominique Robinson to give you meaningful snaps? Probably not. And I think getting that an extra pass rusher is going to be very, very key. And then on the offensive side, like we said about Zacchaeus, he's good. He has that hole, but I still like the idea of at least adding someone. Maybe they are an exclusive slot player or someone that can just add a little extra pop. I like the idea of at least drafting a wide receiver. And then when you go to the tight end position, Durham Smythe, like we said, we run a lot of 2 tight end sets. I would like to get another tight end. So, and also too, and I can't believe I almost glazed over this, I think that one of our biggest position needs right now is actually running back, because y'all know how I feel about DeAndre Swift. And if you're new to the show, when we watch the tape and everything, DeAndre Swift throughout his career is historically known for not just going through the hole that is open for him. Ben Johnson has already gotten rid of DeAndre Swift once. That's why a big thing, I still feel like running back is a pretty big need for the Bears. And we saw just how important the running game, and like we've said also before, look how we're creating this offensive line. Drew Dahlman, run blocking specialist. Jonah Jackson, run blocking specialist. Braxton Jones, run blocking specialist. Darnell Wright has actually become more of a run blocking specialist. Still good in the pass. And Joe Thuney is just a jack of all trades. He is truly just a master of his craft. So we're built to run the football. And that's where I still feel like the running back is big. And that's why a lot of people, and you hear the interviews with Ben Johnson, Ryan Poles, it's a lot of talk about them going after the best player available. Now, that's some coach speak, but I've heard from other national media people saying, yeah, it's probably going to be best player available. And that's why Field Yates said, Bears going Tyler Warren. So let's go into the first mock draft that we have. So with these mock drafts, I'm doing just 3 rounds. Big reason why I'm doing 3 rounds. I don't want us to get caught up in the day 3 picks, because I want us to really focus on the impact, right? Days 1 and 2 should get people that can give you immediate impact this year. So that's why I really want to focus on that, because I don't want to get into the minutia of like, hey, I really liked who you drafted in the 5th. So because of that, it's like, no, let's just do rounds 1, 2, and 3. So we'll be going through 4 different picks. So let's go into mock draft number 1. So what happens if what Field Yates predicted happens? So with the number 10 pick, Bears draft Tyler Warren, 6'6", 261. This guy is an absolute. So a little bit about Tyler Warren, just 1 year of production. 1 year of like true elite production. Last season at the season before at Penn State was good, but it's really just last season just popped off in his senior year. And to me, this is bold, but he reminds me of Travis Kelce, where Travis Kelce is not the best of blockers out there, but he could still hold his own, right? I see some people saying Tyler Warren is a ferocious blocker. He's ferocious. Like he's a big, like he's a physical guy, but he definitely could get better at blocking and really truly holding his blocks when someone's trying to run around him and other things like that. Just sustaining the blocks. I did not see that. Also too, if you're talking about a top 10 pick at tight end, I didn't see the elite movement skills that you see from other elite tight ends out there, like a Brock Bowers, like when Kyle Pitts was coming out, other things like that. Like I didn't see that elite movement speed, but still great speed. And you look last year, 104 receptions, 1,230 yards at the tight end position, 8 touchdowns, 61.9% contested catch rate, just an absolute crazy catch radius. The thing that I really like about him, you throw the ball up, he's going to come down and catch it. And he's a better athlete, in my opinion, than like a Cole Kmet. And also, too, you saw he was able to break tackles after the catch. Yet again, not like a Sam Laporta or a Brock Bowers. I felt like they were in a next tier. But I think Tyler Warren is in that tier right below them when it comes to just breaking tackles and shaking people off. Just a very good tight end prospect, a good receiving threat, and would give you a lot of stuff. So that's someone that I like. And so if at the number 10 pick, Bears go with the tight end. So I guess, how would people grade this pick? What's people's thoughts on this individual pick? So I'm just going to add that. How would you grade this selection? And I'm just going to do this A, B, C, or D, just so that we get that out in the chat. I'll just post that on out just to kind of see what y'all are thinking about. How would you grade that? Also, Muck saying Elijah Arroyo. I do like Elijah Arroyo. Yeah, out of Miami. So for those that don't know, there's other tight ends out there. But Elijah Arroyo, very athletic, does not have a lot of production at Miami, but still just very athletic at that tight end position. So at getting someone like him as a backup would be pretty darn good. But also too, this also reminded me as well. So while y'all kind of fill out how you would feel about drafting Tyler Warren, I want to talk a little bit more about the concept of drafting someone like him as to why would we do this? Because part of what Field Yates was talking about is just getting an elite player. Now, one might say, well, Tyler Warren, isn't he number 10 on the big board, on the consensus big board? You'd be correct. But also think about this similar to like Brock Bowers. A lot of these consensus big boards are trying to factor in positional value. So they're saying, yeah, he's really good, but he's still a tight end. So when you look at this, it's really the concept of what if the Bears, rather than trying to draft for a specific need, they just draft the best player that can contribute to that team. So like we've talked about, what if Mason Graham, defensive tackle out of Michigan, falls? Or Ashton Genty, the running back out of Boise State. And, I feel like next week people are going to start talking about, what if Ted McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona, because he's starting to drop. I could see the topic next week being like people saying, what about Ted McMillan? But there's some of these just elite players that are out there that you might want to take a stab at. And the reason why I kind of exclude like a Will Campbell is just because of those arm lengths. We have never seen a tackle with his arms or his wingspan ever play the tackle coming out of the first round, offensive tackle coming out of the first round. We've literally never seen it. And that's why we're pretty set at guard. Like we're pretty set at the guard position. And I think that's why like Will Campbell is one of those where it's like, because I know people are like, let's just try. But I also want to kind of call this out too with Will Campbell, because I was thinking about this. I think a lot of people assume because of Will Campbell being offensive tackle 1, they think he's Joe Alt. But the best way I can put who Will Campbell is, because I know a lot of you ask, so how good were these guys compared to other draft classes? Will Campbell to me reminds me of Paris Johnson coming out as for the pedigree of player, where Paris Johnson came out in a very similar offensive tackle class with Darnell Wright and other people like that. Where you go, is Paris Johnson this unbelievable tackle prospect? No, but is he great? Is he really, really good? That should be tackle number 1? Yes. Now, the biggest difference between that, Paris Johnson, more built like a tackle, but Will Campbell is the pedigree of a Paris Johnson, but built like a Peter Skoronski. So that's the big thing that, for me, we'll talk about this next mock draft, hint, hint, but that's something that always kind of holds me back with Will Campbell. And I know I'm probably going to get some hate saying, hey, he's played with short arms his whole life. Same thing with Peter Skoronski, same thing with Zach Martin, same thing with, list goes on and on about really, really good tackles that just had to play as guards. So want to just kind of throw that out there for sure. So let's go into pick number 2. So right now, everyone grading so far, the consensus is a C for Tyler Warren. So let's go into the second round then. And so in the second round, Bears go Tyler Warren with the first pick. And now let's go into the second round where, with the second round pick, the Bears draft a Travion Henderson. Now, I also want to call this out too. This is not what I would do. I'm just throwing this out as ideas and things that, what do we think about this whole situation? Because yet again, when draft day actually comes, I'm not going to be making the picks. It's going to be Ryan Poles. So also, I purposely like to throw different people that we haven't talked too much about. So how would you grade this? The Bears drafting Travion Henderson, running back out of Ohio State, with the second round pick. So let me know. See Philip out there. What's good? Bear down. Also, Travion Henderson, 5'10", 208. Now, a little bit that I'll tell you about with Travion Henderson. Now, Travion Henderson to me feels like a do-it-all back. He can just, and my strengths and weaknesses on him, I felt weird typing this up. Because when I just look at him, you go, this guy can do it all. This guy has the speed to break these gigantic runs. And that's why he kind of reminds me of Aaron Jones a little bit, where he can make these huge plays. And now he does have kind of this long-legged running style that I don't necessarily love. But the thing too is kind of has some wasted steps when he's like trying to change direction, has some injury history. And also another thing that I'm not necessarily in love with, he does have shades of DeAndre Swift. I was actually going to put him as a comp for him because DeAndre Swift could catch. He could do it all out of the backfield. But Henderson has some bad vision as well. But still, actually, I put good vision. I needed to replace that. I think that he could get better with his vision overall. But still, Travion Henderson, just a good do-it-all back. He's got the speed that you want. He can catch out of the backfield. He can block. He can do it all. And that's someone that you can get in that second round. He's the consensus number 45 player overall, RB3. Some are even projecting him to go in the first round. So, how do we feel? Because like I said, it feels like the Bears are going to go running back early because of what they have with Swift. How do we feel about this? We're getting a D, a C, 50% B. So kind of split with this. So I'm really kind of curious. Yeah. What do y'all think about Travion Henderson? So that's who the Bears in this first mock draft get with that second round pick. So now let's go over to our second round pick and talk about this. So let me just start the poll again. Let me just get it all preloaded for y'all. So with the second round pick, so the Bears went tight end, they went running back, and this is where I still feel a really good spot, is to go after defensive end. So with this second round pick, the Bears go after JT Tuimoloau. Now, defensive end, Ohio State, 6'5", 269. Now, the reason why I threw him in here, and he's just got the length. He's got the size. And what we know about Dennis Allen, he likes the tall arms, tall with long arms. That's what he likes. That's why he likes Dio. That's why he likes Montez Sweat. He wants players like this. JT is one of those guys that just absolute power, also a very good athlete. Now, he's someone too that some of the drawbacks, I think that he's very linear with how he plays, doesn't have true flexibility around the outside edge, but I really do like all the other pieces that he's got, just like the high motor, and he can be coached up to be a pretty darn good pass rusher. Now, even though he had 12 and a half sacks, when you watch the tape, a lot of it is not necessarily like he wins it, he gets it, but has a 12.1% pass rush win rate, which in the NCAA, not that great. But still, someone that just fiery motor, nonstop. That's why I really think that Dennis Allen, this could be someone that they really like at that defensive end spot. And when you look at the defensive end position, now you have depth. You have someone behind. Now you still have Austin Booker. You still have Dominique Robinson, Daniel Hardy. And then also you have this second round prospect that really former 5-star athlete, just very, very someone that you could polish and make as a good defensive end. So that's why I went with JT as the second round pick. So how are we feeling about this? We got some A's out there, 33%. We got some C's. So I'm curious with the C people, how do we feel about this? What do we not necessarily like about this? Yet again, these are, I made the picks, but it's not necessarily what I would do. So I'm just genuinely curious how we feel as fans about something like that. So now, like I said at the very beginning, we're doing 3 rounds. So this will be the last pick for the first mock draft that we have. So to start this off, let me just end that poll. I'll do another little post and just see what we think. So let's go A, B, C, D. And let's go with the last pick that the Bears end up making. So we have a tight end, we have a running back, we have a defensive end, and in the 3rd round, Bears draft Jaylin Noel, Iowa State wide receiver, 5'11", 200. Like I said, I like to draft people that we have not talked about. We have not talked about Jaylin Noel all that much inside of this. So this is this rounds out our mock draft number 1. He's 5'11", 200 pounds. This guy reminds me of this year's Jaden Reed. He's 3rd round. He's a 3rd round type of pedigree of a receiver, and this guy is quick. Now, the reason why you go, hey, I think I've heard his name before, is because he blew up the combine. He had a crazy 40 time because a lot of people said he didn't have the top end speed. Jaylin Noel goes out there and ran some top end speed. And something that I find very unique about Jaylin Noel compared to other slot receivers, something that I think that Ben Johnson is going to fall in love with. I see Ben Johnson running a lot of stuff vertically. And something that Jaylin Noel does very well from the slot is he actually runs a lot of vertical slot routes. I'm not just talking about like seam routes up the middle. I'm talking about a lot of developing routes that he's trying to attack downfield. So he's not like an Xavier Restrepo out of Miami, who, yet again, another 3rd round person that I was actually going to probably mock to the Bears, but I was like, I haven't talked about Noel yet, so let's throw Noel into this mock draft. Now, he is someone that Xavier Restrepo is more of a short yardage, your classic slot receiver. That's why Jaylin Noel has this unique upside. That's why I think he's very fascinating. Now, I am curious about just his natural play strength. It's just not there because, as we know, it's the no block, no rock type of thing. If you don't block, you don't get the rock, like what Ben Johnson said. Jaylin Noel, it's not saying that he's a bad blocker, but that's something where when you get into this range, do the Bears look at an Xavier Restrepo and say he blocks a little bit better? Or Jack Besh out of TCU, who I was actually going to mock here too. Do they look at those other receivers and say, well, maybe we take this guy? But I do like what Jaylin Noel brings, because he could be the starting slot receiver. He could also be outside because he's got that speed that you want at the NFL level. Yet again, a little bit lighter, but he is also a good receiver. And also another thing too that he reminds me of too is that he's just like with Jaden Reed. He's very like to the ground. It doesn't mean that he's popping up and making these unbelievable catches. Doesn't mean he doesn't know how to catch in traffic. He's actually very good in traffic when the ball's thrown to him. He's very focused, is able to pull that ball in. That is something that I like about Jaylin Noel. So overall, it looks like y'all like it. Majority of you saying A, it's just A's and B's. So Jaylin Noel, Yeah, I was curious to see what y'all like. So some Jalen Knoll fans, I know we have a lot of Iowa State fans that watch the show. So that is the first mock draft. And don't worry, at the end, we'll kind of recap all of this together and just kind of get your final thoughts on it. So the first mock draft as it goes, Tyler Warren, Travion Henderson, JT Tuimoloau, and then also Jalen Knoll. So now, right, what do we think? I think that just overall, just seeing how y'all reacted to that, not a lot of fans of that, probably around that C or B range. I think that there wasn't a lot of fans of that one. So let's talk about mock draft number 2. Now, what I wanted to do in this scenario, because, right, I always like to kind of play the different scenarios. What might the Bears be thinking? Because in the first scenario, this is the best player available, so to speak, right? That's what Fields Yates was trying to do with the Tyler Warren pick. He draft a tight end because he's the best player available. He's the best player at his given position. If this was Madden and you looked at overall rating and potential, he had the best overall and best potential, right? But let's talk about a different scenario. Let's talk about playing it safe. And what I mean by this is Brian Poles once said, it's about knowing where players are in the draft and where you can get a specific player on the draft board. So what we're going to be doing in this exercise is in this mock draft, we're going to say like, hey, at this position, we're probably not going to get another comparable player later on in the draft. So let's wait on drafting someone like that, maybe a little bit later on. But if we need to get a starter, let's try to get them right now. Now, and this is why I'm really curious to see what y'all think about this, because I think this first pick might turn some heads, might be a little bit up or down with this, because also too, and I just want to call this out as well, is that the Bears did say that they like Braxton Jones. Now, I'm one that I don't like to listen to a lot of the actual interviews and like truly take away specific items because of just like, there's a lot of coach speak just thrown around like, yeah, we like our guys, we like them all. And there's also talks that, hey, no, this is actually a real thing. They actually do like Braxton Jones. But I want to throw this out there. What if it is coach speak and we need a left tackle? We want someone. We're in a perfect opportunity to turn up the heat on Braxton Jones. Also, there's still Karan Amagaji, so I want to throw that out there as well. But in this mock, we're saying if we want a left tackle, let's go get a left tackle. So with the first pick, number 10, the Bears are going Kelvin Banks Jr. So how would we grade this if this ends up happening? Now, I already know that some people are saying, well, I want Will Campbell. Well, I want Armand Membou. Membou is going to go high. I don't think that Membou is going to be going down to number 10. Also, he's more of a right tackle as well. So you would be taking a flyer on that. And then at the left tackle position, like I said before, what I talked about with Will Campbell, I think the biggest thing is if you are going to go tackle, don't leave a question on if that person is a tackle. Kelvin Banks has a crazy wide wingspan. So it's not just the arm lengths. His wingspan was like the third best among all tackles inside of this class. It's actually a very, very good wingspan. He's got the size that you want from the tackle. He's been a starter at left tackle for 3 years in the SEC. And what do y'all think? I got a D out there, couple A's, couple B's. That's why I really wanted to know what y'all thought about this one. Because Kelvin Banks, we've discussed him a little bit before, but let's see. So if we go with this kind of safe feeling, you have this backup left tackle that can then develop. So how do we feel? I see Dobbsy out there saying he prefers the best player available and left tackle next year. And this is why I love doing these exercises, because I love to just hear what y'all have to think about something like this. Because what if we did it this way? We have a backup left tackle, and this is where it pushes Braxton. And Braxton's coming off of an injury. But at the same time, you go, but man, I'd like a new running back. I'd like a new pass rusher. I'd like a new tight end. I'd like right? Like there's a lot of other things that we could probably add. So let's see what people think. Ravi's saying too high for development tackle. He'd probably be a guard at the pro level. We're not going to go that high next year, is what Taka Man's saying. Yeah, hopefully we're not going that high next year. I'm seeing a lot of A's out there. I'm seeing some B's, but really a lot of A's. His passing grade last season, yet again in the SEC, 89.8. Very, very good. 81.5 zone blocking grade, 70.8 gap grade. And I need to update this. Looking at his new measurables, this guy measures as a left tackle. Like I was saying, with his wingspan, with his arms, with his height, he's no longer 6'4". I actually need to update that. He's actually 6'5". Texas measured him too low. So he's good. He's definitely, and I need to update this. Now I'm reading my actual profile. I need to actually update that because now he's a little bit taller. Now, Kelvin Banks. So far, a lot of people are really liking this. And I actually want to bring up something that Ravi's saying out inside of the chat, because he brought up Ariante Ursary, where I actually was going to put Ursary in mock draft number 1, but I purposely was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it no offensive line picks just to kind of see how that is. But Ursary, I literally had Ursary and I was like, I'm not going to do Ursary this time around. So yeah, you brought up Ursary out of Minnesota. That is a second round tackle that I really like. Just if they were going to go with the tackle in the second round, I really like him, or even like a Josh Connerly if one of those guys were to drop to them in the second round. So lots of love for Kelvin Banks out there. 50% A's, 38% B's, 12% D. So good stuff out there. But let's see. Let's go over, and also Robbie's saying that's cool. Yeah, glad to catch the show. Yeah, we're on the same page, Robbie. Yeah, it definitely, because it's like I like Ursary. And yeah, I love what you brought up too. Stonewalled Abdul Carter. He did. He really did. And yeah, so, and he's got a lot of upside. And didn't measure in as big as I thought he would, which was kind of interesting. But yeah, all the people that were supposed to be like absolute tackles measured smaller. All the people that were supposed to be guards measured taller. It was a weird combine overall. But let's go over to the second round pick. So in the second mock draft, we got Kelvin Banks Jr. as a nice tackle, right? We're saying, hey, we want a swing tackle. We want someone that can play this tackle position. We end up going with that, and then next one, let me just prime the question for y'all out in the chat. Let's start this out. Next selection. The Bears go with their first second round pick. And this is one that I feel like more people need to just kind of be putting in pen for the Bears. This guy screams Dennis Allen. Landon Jackson, 6'7", 280 pounds. That's all you need to know. Defensive end out of Arkansas. He fits the Dennis Allen mold perfectly. Like, when you look at this, he is the tallest. He's got the most length. He's got everything. Like, Dennis Allen loves the tall boys. That's Landon Jackson. And also, if you're new to the show, you might notice this little Ryan Poles right up in the very top left. Or actually right up there. That Ryan Poles thing, I've put the little Ryan Poles icon for someone who has above an 8.0 RAS score and also was in the Senior Bowl. Because I know we were all kind of joking that Ryan Poles loves people that are in the Senior Bowl and has above an 8 RAS score. That's Landon Jackson. So it just really does picture this. It really does kind of make it so that Landon Jackson does seem like a Chicago Bear, like someone that they would definitely want to have. He's just got this incredible strength, this incredible power that he plays with. So to me, I don't love projecting a lot of who's a really good run defender. I think that's always can be a little bit tricky. But Landon Jackson feels like a safe run defender, because run defenders coming to the NFL are always very volatile because they win with their strength. They win with their power. Landon Jackson, you feel more comfortable about because he is a giant with gigantic arms. And he also blew up the combine with just how fast he actually ran. A lot of people, myself included, didn't expect him to run as fast as he did. So he showed a good potential when it came to his athletic profile. He's got a great frame to him. Someone that I think that Dennis Allen is really going to just fall in love with. Now, some negatives, he's tall. He's just got natural stiffness to his game. He plays with high pad level, so he's going to have to be coached up on just staying low out of your stance, not just absolutely popping up directly up. But also, that's where I also am curious, how big of an upside does he have as a pass rusher? Same thing with Dayo Adengbo, right? When you have those profiles, you know they're going to be good, most likely in the run defense. It's going to be that pass rush upside What can you get out of him? That's some of the negatives with him. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Emmanuel Agba, long, lanky guy, more of a run defender at that defensive end spot, but pretty solid. This is where I think that this is someone that I need to do more research on and like dive deeper. I've already watched a lot of his tape, but I just want to watch him more because if he's there, this is a bear. This is a Dennis Allen defensive end to a T. So 62% saying A, 38% saying B. Y'all like that? I think that this mock draft so far is going to be people's favorites as we're seeing right now. So next second round pick that we have, right? This is one, and also part of this is, like I said, this is the safe draft, quote unquote. And the reason why it's the safe draft, tackles. A lot of times, like with the Kansas City Chiefs like to draft tackles in the second, in the third. And when you watch a lot of the tape, a lot of tackles that go in the second and the third, most of the time don't know how to block. Like simply are not great at blocking. Wanya Morris, not a fantastic blocker. It's a lot of projection. It's just, hey, you have the athletic traits because it's so hard to find just a simple tackle. And that's why, hey, go with the tackle in the first round. It's one of the hardest positions to find later on in drafts. But also, the defensive end class is very, very deep. There's, I believe, Field Yates had 6 first-round defensive ends that are projected. And then you have even more in the second round. So defensive end is deep. And as we know, too, running back is also deep out there as well. So let's go into the second round pick, and that is Quinshon Judkins. Wanted to do this too because I just kind of wanted to talk about both Ohio State running backs right now. I was even tempted to just throw Scatabo out there just to kind of see what y'all's thoughts were on Scatabo. But what we have out here, we got Quinshon Judkins, running back out of Ohio State with our second round pick. So we went left tackle, we went left tackle, we went defensive end, and then we went running back. Same kind of thought that we had in the second round, where part of this idea is that, hey, if you're going to draft someone, and like I said before, I think that we do need someone that can contribute right away. So and I think that the Bears are going to try and get someone this early at the running back position. So that's why I wanted to kind of keep it this way. Very, very similar, but Judkins. I actually like Judkins a little bit more than Travion Henderson, even though consensusly Judkins is ranked a little bit lower by like 10 or 15 picks or so. But Quinshon Judkins transferred over from Mississippi, and still, both of these running backs at Ohio State, I felt were both running backs that can be an every down runner. And Quinshon Judkins to me was that guy. And I actually need to update his comparison because I think I might have accidentally copied and pasted Joe Mixon. But I think to me, when I watch this guy's tape, he is like a DeMarco Murray for those that remember him on the Cowboys. Just, he is someone who's going to stiff arm you. He is someone that's going to try and just plow you over. And yeah, his elusive grade is 69.3. Not very great. But Judkins he's got that power profile. He's got a really good build, 6 foot, 219. Now, something a little bit too that I don't necessarily love is he kind of sits behind the line of scrimmage a little bit. Not in love with that. But this is someone who was great at the combine. Just has this crazy speed. They both have it, right? They both have home run speed. They can both make very, very big plays. I just thought that Judkins was the better overall runner than like a Travion Henderson. Both very good running backs, but all of them, they can block, they can receive, they can just play well. Now, another little downside with Judkins is when he was going against good competition, that's when he started to fall off. That is something that is a little bit of a red flag because when he was going against good competition, I don't have the exact stat in front of me. When you saw him against some of the top teams, he was averaging less than 4 yards a carry consistently. So that was something that didn't necessarily love out of his game, where you just kind of raise an eyebrow a little bit, where you go, I see the greatness, but when you're going against greatness, you're supposed to be elevated and play a little bit better, when Henderson was playing a little bit better. So let me see what y'all have to say too. Yeah, Taco Man said, yeah, DeMarco Murray did fall off when after he left the Cowboys. He was like Mr. fantasy football player. Like everyone's like, oh man, DeMarco leaves and just, nothing, just vanished. We had then Joe saying too, Judkins, a Monty type back. Yeah, you got that power. And I think that's something that is a good compliment. Now, I know some people might say Omarion Hampton. Now, I see Omarion Hampton, like one thing that I do is I don't like to use mock draft simulators when I do a mock like this. I like to try and project based on just consensus ratings, right? Based on all different big boards so that we don't have a lot of, bias or other things like that. Omarion Hampton, I would put money he's going in the first. That's the running back out of UNC. I know like if you use other mock draft tools, he'll like drop to the Bears. That would be a dream scenario, but I do feel like I think that Ashton Genty's going number 6 to the Raiders. If he doesn't, then maybe he falls to the Bears. But then I think that Hampton's probably, speaking of the Cowboys, I could see him going to the Cowboys, honestly. I think that a lot of people are going to try and reach on him a little bit. So yeah, but let's see. Scroll saying we need a Gibbs type back. Monty's come a dime a dozen. That's a really good point. So that is, and actually I was watching Jahmyr Gibbs's tape just because I like to kind of watch some backs beforehand just to say how good were they when they were coming out. And man, if do yourself a favor after this video, go watch some Jahmyr Gibbs tape. You realize how fast of a guy he is, how quick of a guy he is. Man, like just the speed, just next level speed that he had. And obviously we see that this year with just how he was for the Detroit Lions. So first off, Quinshon Judkins, we got A's and B's. Y'all really liking this draft. So this might be the winner. We'll have a final poll at the very end of this. So next pick, the last pick, right? We're doing 3 rounds with this, and then we'll compare the mock drafts and we'll see what y'all's favorite one is. So with the last 3rd round pick, right? We got defensive end, we got running back, we got an offensive lineman. Now this 3rd round, I really like the idea. And this is where I think of a lot of this prediction is just where are there good players where later on you might not be able to land one of these guys. I think that the 3rd round might be prime position for the Bears to get a tight end because you look at who they have at tight end, Durham Smythe. You can upgrade from that. If we're going to be running 2 tight end sets, I don't want this to be like a Gerald Everett situation, right? Let's go and find a tight end. And that's why I think that the Bears are going to go tight end with the 3rd round if they don't go Tyler Warren, as we saw at number 10. But with this, to round out the draft, Bears go tight end Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon. Out 6'5", Oregon, 6'5", 255 senior. And here's the thing. This is where I could see like a Mason Taylor out of LSU. This is where Arroyo, like we talked about, out of Miami. There's a lot of tight ends out there. I haven't done an official profile on Terrence Ferguson. Like I said, this is where I like to just throw out different players so we can at least talk about it. And also, I like to just see what y'all think about different players. Terrence Ferguson, the thing that he reminds me of, and the reason why I think that the Bears might really like him too, is he reminds me of a very off-brand version of Sam Laporta, right? He's the Faygo soda of Sam Laporta's, because Sam Laporta, the way that he looked like out of college was he was very to the ground. He wasn't jumping up and making these contested catches. He was always he was always feet on the ground, running, getting open. Like he never was really like leaping over people, making contested catches, things like that. And Terrence Ferguson does not do that. 25% contested catch rate. I wouldn't be surprised if that's 1 out of 4 because Ferguson gets open. He's got crazy good athleticism. When I saw him at the combine, I was like, who is this guy? He's a very, very fluid mover. And this guy breaks tackles. I think he's top 5 in broken tackles among tight ends just inside of the NCAA and just good. He's got the upside that you want athletically. 60.2 run block grade. So yet again, not a crazy good blocker. And even just watching him block, he needs someone to coach him up with just his form. It just doesn't look natural when he's kind of blocking there. But this is more of that. He projects in my mind more of that slot rather than he can still play in line because he's 6'5", 255. But I feel like he would be more of that slot weapon as a tight end but still has the flexibility to play in line if you'd like to do something like that. So 43 receptions last year, 591 yards. I love his athleticism. His weakness is really that blocking. Another comp to like a Luke Musgrave coming out where it's really about his athletic profile, and then the production, not necessarily all there, but someone that you're hoping can just be a receiver, right? He does scream like a receiving option and then needs to just be coached up. And last little bit too, yeah, like I said, doesn't really attack the ball in the air. That's the only other thing that I just kind of dock him a little bit on. Just don't love the aggressiveness. And I think that's where that Sam Laporta, the super off-brand version of Sam Laporta, kind of comes in, because the tape just reminds me of that. Very fast, very quick, breaks a lot of tackles, doesn't necessarily sky for the ball too aggressively. So that's my profile on Terrence Ferguson. Let's see, we're getting about 43% A, 43% C, 14% D. This is kind of what I was expecting too. And Terrence Ferguson also, according to the consensus big board, this is the biggest reach that we're having as well. He's the 103rd overall prospect. And yeah, we're reaching pretty big on him. And that's where I was like, I could do one of the tight ends that we always talk about. I'm like, I like to do this. I like to educate y'all at this. So let's see. So yeah, that's the big thing, is to me, more of a receiver type of a project that could then fill in. So now, yeah, y'all kind of up and down. I'm seeing A's now kind of stroll in. So now it is time. Get this all squared away. And we're going to talk about now. Now it is our turn to say which mock draft is our favorite out of the dueling mock drafts. Now, I don't know yet what I want to do for, like, maybe we have them go back to back, or we just kind of keep them, let's see. We're going to do A or B. A's on the left, B's on the right. And that's what we're going to do. So we're going to do A and B. Oh, come on, YouTube. This is live performance at its best. Which mock is better? A or B? I feel like an eye doctor. So A, for those that are listening to the podcast, Tyler Warren, the tight end out of Penn State, Travion Henderson, the running back out of Ohio State, JT Tuimoloau out of the edge out of Ohio State, and then also Jalen Knoll, wide receiver out of Iowa State. And then on the other side, we have Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle out of Texas, Landon Jackson, edge out of Arkansas, Quinshon Judkins, running back out of Ohio State, and Terrence Ferguson, tight end out of Oregon. Now, I'm curious just also too, what do y'all think about some of these drafts, right? Like I said, I'm not taking any offense if anybody does not like these at all. These are just more of exercises for us to go through. Because I think, like, when I look at this, A gives you more bang for your buck today, right? You're getting a tight end in Tyler Warren. You're getting a wide receiver in Jalen Knoll. So you're you're getting Travion Henderson. So you're getting all these weapons for Caleb Williams. That's something that I like. And I like that you're the upside of a Tyler Warren, someone who does have, like, he was an elite grade last year for PFF. And that's where, when you're looking at who's great at their position, Tyler Warren could be a very, very, very good NFL tight end, where he's got the above, like, the great athleticism, not elite, like I said, but still great athleticism for someone who is 6'6". And you get a defensive end, JT out of Ohio State, that I really like, that I think also has some of this upside and rounds it. But then when you go to the other side, you got Kelvin Banks, you got Landon Jackson. And I think that safeness, right? Having Kelvin Banks, that makes me kind of feel good. Like, as a fan, I'm kind of like, okay, we got someone that can push Braxton in case he's not good. Because what if he's not, right? And I think that's the big piece. Also, still, Kelvin Banks, as for those that are watching on YouTube, you can see still, Kelvin Banks is the person that is mocked the most times to the Chicago Bears, because people are saying, well, they want to complete the cycle. They want to complete the tackle, even though that the most recent rumors that are out there are saying the Bears think that they're fine. But I like the other pieces too, just because that's where, like, to me, B is like the epitome of, like, just a good draft. right? I just think it's like a good draft. Like, I'm not in love with it, but I'm just like, you know what? Kelvin Banks, left tackle, defensive end, tight ends, running back, like, that's good. Like, I don't hate it. I don't love it. I'm just like, that's good. But let's see. It is split right down the middle. We got 45% and 55%. So make sure to vote. Luca's out there saying, Tyler Warren is him. That's the thing. I know Broski, very big watcher of the show as well. He'd be someone there too saying, hey, let's go there. Oh, Illinois Jones saying, very good question. I was going to call this out. So what happened to picks 39 and 41? Good question. I should actually probably throw this into an actual mock draft simulator. The numbers that you see are actually the consensus rank. So they're not the actual draft picks that we did. So what this is showing is Kelvin Banks is the 14th overall prospect. Tyler Warren's the 10th overall prospect. Travion Henderson, 45th. JT is 57th. So yeah, I should have. One of those, I was like, I could use a mock draft simulator. And next time I'll do that. I think it'll be a little bit easier to do. And Dobbsy's saying, Karan didn't have a training camp last year. That's the thing. I think that's Braxton and Karan are the two biggest question marks, because if they feel comfortable with Braxton, you feel good. But then the question is Karan, because right now Karan is your swing tackle. And if they think like, hey, you know what? Like I've said, he needs to do some squats, right? He needs to do some squats, but he couldn't because he had a hamstring injury. So that's where I think a lot of it comes into, and say, hey, he's still someone that I really liked. And I'm still going to say that even if he sucks, I liked him. I liked him coming out because, yet again, like what I said, you don't see a lot of tackles that know how to block. And Karan has the athletic profile to be a starting left tackle. He's got the speed, he's got the size, he's got the length. He's got everything that you want. I think he's got like 36-inch arms. It's like absolutely bonkers. He's got the athletic profile, but also he was really good at Yale. And that statement tells you everything you need to know. He was really good at Yale. So he was a really good player, but he was going against just poor competition. He was going against doctors and lawyers where, like, no offense to the doctors and lawyers out there, but they're not as good as some of these other guys that are out there. So yeah, I think that's where it's going to be a question of those guys. And that's where a lot of people are saying maybe they don't go tackle early. So let's see. Yeah. Statue every play. Yeah. Lots of talk. I will close the poll right now. The winner officially of the mock draft, the first dueling mock draft of the season, is option B. So y'all liked the Kelvin Banks, Landon Jackson, Quinshon Judkins, and Terrence Ferguson. I had a feeling, right, that we were getting a lot more A's with. And I think the biggest question is just what you think of Tyler Warren, right? I think that's the biggest piece. And I know a lot of people too want to have that tackle. So thank y'all so much for coming out, talking about the draft. I like this. I love these things. If y'all like this too, and you like kind of this format, let me know down in the comments so we can have more of these, because I like doing these things. I like to just kind of learn about the draft, learn about some of the players that we don't normally talk about, just to kind of say who could be there, who might be a good scheme fit for the Bears, who might not be. Because I can just give you exactly what I would do over and over and over again and keep regurgitating it, but that'd get a little bit boring. So if you like this, make sure to like and subscribe if you're out there on YouTube. Tell your friends about it as well. It helps the show out tremendously. Thank you all so much for coming out on a Saturday. Thank you guys for watching. We got 83 people watching right now. So make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. Helps out tremendously. And with that, have a great weekend. Unbearable Sports Podcast. We are out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she's a